Let's feed the fish. Hello guys, didn't see you there. It's Mark back here on Mark's Aquatics. I hope you've had a great weekend, and on this Wednesday's little video we're going to be breeding neon tetras on this one, but black neon tetras this time guys. Some of you guys have been asking for me to breed them, sorry. So without further ado, let's pop over to the other side of the bench and look at this tank. I'll show you how it was set up, water parameters, all that kind of good stuff, and let's watch some little black neons have a spawning session, and hopefully you can follow along with your little guys at home and I can tell you all that you need to know. Okay, so let's go, let's check them out. Right then guys, what we've got here is my little tank. It's only about 2.5 gallons, this tank, not very big at all. It's the tanks, one of the tanks that we bred the neon tetras in that breeding series. Now I'm just going to take you through what I've done with this tank. Now I've got a nice little lamp over the top here, which I've just put. It's one of these little IKEA lights. They're fantastic. They're for little grow lights. There's the information on the back there, if it's not too glary for you. But they're amazing little lights. They grow plants really well, super cheap, and they've been programmed to grow plants in a little hydroponic system. So I bought a couple of those. One's over Jack's tank. You can see how well if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know how well the plants are growing in Jack's tank, and that's one of those little lights over the top. So I got that over the top on a piece of glass as a cover. I've got one piece of sponge filter cycle in there. Okay, I've got some of the double ones, and what I've done is I've just taken that one piece off, okay, and where the water comes out of the outlet, I've pushed the air line down right the way down the tube to the bottom, and so the air is running up inside and back out through the opening. Okay, and that's given me a little tiny filter on the side. I didn't want to put a big sponge filter in there because it takes up quite a bit of room, so I've just got this one single one in there. Now you don't need one in there like in part one of the breeding tetras. Okay, the breeding the neons. As you saw, we went right through the whole stage without a filter in there. We just did partial water changes after the fry were free swimming, and we started to add the little bit of food in there, and then we went on to filtration later on when they're a little bit bigger. But most of you can get away with the water changes as long as they're regular and you keep that frequency of small feeds but often of live food, and you're not chucking in too much food. You're not going to pollute your water up. You've got the live plants in there. In this tank here we've got subwasatang, which is a beautiful little plant which I've got in my shrimp room. The shrimps love it, they love to graze off it, but it also makes for a great spawning media as well, because if you're looking amongst it, there's lots and lots of places for the eggs to drop through, okay, and hide in amongst them where they can't get to them. It's easier then to getting the fish out afterwards, as you've only got one spawning media mop in the middle sort of thing. You can use the nylon mops as well guys, don't forget, which I've got one of here. Those are the ones we made, very simple to make. I just use a piece of substrate, wrap the wool around a book, going round and round and round like that, okay, and then you just snip across the top, okay, and then you've got a double strand then, and you just tie a knot around the top and you get that, okay, and you can fold it over with that bit of media in the top, tie some string, some more wool around the top there, and then that floats down all to the bottom, opens up like that, and the fish will spawn in amongst that. Okay, you can use that as well, but we're going to try a more natural approach. You've seen me use the spawning mops in other videos that I've done, the glow lights. We did that with those mops that you saw there. Pick the other one up that I threw on the floor. There's a bigger one there. Those are the ones we used. I just cable tied that one together actually just to make a bigger mop for the glow lights to go in. But we've got subwasatang in there, okay, and we've got a compost substrate, okay. I know in a lot of my videos I keep saying peat. It's one of these, it's a thing I grew up with. My granddad and my parents always used to call it peat, and it came in the bags, and it's just something I've stuck with. But it's actually compost, okay. It's just rotted down leaf mould, normal organic compost that you get from a garden centre, with no added. Make sure there's no added fertilisers or anything in it. It's got to be just pure organic peat. I'll say it again. Compost, Mark, compost. And But what you've got to do is you've got to soak it for a few days first, okay? If you look at the Neon Tetra video, go back to that one if you're unsure, okay, on how to prep it up, and that'll take you through it as well, okay? But what I tend to do is leave it in a bucket of rainwater outside for a few days, let it sink. You'll get some detritus, as you can see, the woodier bits will float on the top. You can leave them in or net them out, it's entirely up to you. I just leave them in because they will sink over time. They just take a bit longer to soak up the water and sink, okay? Now you're going to get the tannins released. A lot of the tannins will be released, but you can, when you actually take it out, you can squeeze the peat out and then you place it in the bottom like you saw in the Neon Tetra breeding video. Just cover it, and then what I've used in here is rainwater, okay? That is just 100% rainwater in there of a pH of 6.5, and I've brought it up to a temperature of 26.2. Well, 26 degrees, say. Okay, so that's what we've got in there to breed these guys. Now with these black neons that I've got here, what I'm going to do, I've got them in the bench tank. Now I've been feeding these guys up for about a good couple of weeks. Like if you've got them in your home tank at home, make sure you live feed with Daphnia, micro worms, anything that's alive, mosquito larvae, stuff of that nature, like you hear me say on all my breeding videos, to get the fish conditioned up, because any insect life in the water really kicks them into gear, and it means there's extra food in the water, and when the fish sees extra food in the water, they think, right, that little clock goes on, and they think, brilliant, they'll start filling up with eggs, and before you know it, they'll be spawning away in your home aquarium as well. A lot of fish spawn in your home aquarium every morning as soon as you turn the lights on, but you're probably busy, you're getting ready for work and all that kind of stuff. But on the weekend, if you get up really early, if you've got your lights set, turn them off and then leave them until you get up early when it's still a bit dark. Turn them on and just watch your tank. Just sit down with a coffee and watch your tank and watch what your fish do, and you'll see the little courtship behaviour going on. You can sort out then which pair are sort of flaring away to each other, courting to each other in the tank. Make a little note on those two if you can, by little fin markings or anything like that you can, and then you can fish those two out and put them into your breeding tank. Okay, now I'm just going to put a pair in this breeding tank, unless I might find a pair, but if I can find maybe one male and a couple of females, or maybe two of each that are ready, I'll put them in here and we'll spawn them in the morning. And so I've got this tank ready now. It's been running for about 2 days. It's up to temperature, everything's ready, the cycle filter's going, peat's in the bottom, spawning media's there. So all we've got to do now is put the fish in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and move around in the bench tank here, and then I'm going to pick out a nice pair or 2 pairs and put them in, see what I feel and what's ready, and then we'll go from there. Just remember, you've got to pick a nice plump round female that you can see who's full of eggs and conditioned up ready, and those males are a lot more streamlined, smaller belly cavity in general, and they seem to be a lot slimmer in general, okay, for the males. Harder to sex when they're young, but if you've got them and you've grown them out in your aquarium at home and you want to give this a go, that's fine, you know what you're doing there. But if you want to go down to the shop and buy some younger ones and bring them on, obviously you've got to wait then until they're going to be old enough to breed. And tetras will breed from sort of like 12 to 13 weeks from hatch, so they're pretty quick turnaround, okay? But to get a nice big pair, if you go down to your garden centres or your local fish shops and look around and just see a nice big female, you'll see the difference. They stick out like a sore thumb, they really do, when you get a nice big one and they're full of eggs. That's the one that you want to pick, because they've been conditioned in the shops, ready to go. And you can literally bring them home and they will spawn for you the next morning. If they don't, it'll be the morning afterwards. If you start feeding them live food, a couple of days they'll normally good to go. But don't get despondent if they don't spawn for you straight away. Leave them in there, keep feeding them the live food, and then in the mornings just keep looking every morning. Get up a bit early, and it's just all to do with the timing and seeing it, because sometimes, a lot of the time, they've laid the eggs and you haven't seen them do it. So they'll fall between, you won't see any eggs on the leaves, they'll eat the ones that they can see, but the ones you can't see, that have gone in amongst all this, you won't see. Then you'll leave them in there, and then within 24 hours they'll hatch and they'll predate on the young, so you think nothing's happening. But you've got to be very vigilant, you've got to keep your eyes peeled at all time. Unless you do the floating floor version across here with a grid, with an inbuilt grid, that you can leave the spawning mop on and any eggs will fall through underneath and there's no way they can get to them that way. That's a little bit more work. I like to do it a bit more natural. I have bred them with grids on the past, and it works very, very well for a lot of species because you do save a lot of eggs that way. But I like to do things natural, a little bit more work, and I just find you get a higher spawn rate when you do it this way. So I'll get back to you in a minute, guys, okay, when I put the fish in. Right guys, I was looking in there and I've picked out 6. I've got about 10 in there. I've got 3 females and I've pulled out about 3 males as well, so we got 3 of each in there now. Now what you're going to find is with this peat, once it settles down, it's very, very loose, and when the fish first go in, they're going to stir it up a little bit before they get used to it. Okay, so I've just put them in there. They're going to get used to it. The light's still very bright. I'm going to be turning that off. In fact, if I turn that off, I'm not sure if you'll see them. There they go. They'll be a little bit, you'll see me more now with the glare. But I'll turn that off now. That'll keep them nice and quiet. And what I'm going to probably do now is I'm going to cover over the tank. I'll remove the light off the top and I'm going to cover it up. It's sort of mid-afternoon at the moment, so with that light off now, that's going to just keep them nice and calm. And what I'll do is I'll leave it on. You can see they're already starting to come up into the water column now. They could spawn. Like I say, that water's about 7 in the bench tank and it's 6.5 in here, so that drop in pH. I don't bother to acclimate them. I just pop them straight in at 6.5, and that never seems to do them any harm at all. There you are. I think the less messing around with a lot of these species, the better, really. I think if you start trying to acclimate, get everything ready, you just really do upset them. And as you can see, I've taken them out, put them in literally 2 minutes, and they've adjusted straight away. They're starting to explore their new little tank, which is small, but that's all we need to breed these guys. And hopefully in the morning we'll have a little spawn to show you. And it's funny actually, because I've got one of them there. I'm not sure if I'll try and point. This little girl here, she's always swum, oh no, sorry, it's this one here. You can see she's always swum sideways, which is a little bit strange. I'm not sure what's going on there. But the babies that she has, there won't be anything wrong with them. They'll all be fine. It's just something, it could be, I don't know, maybe it's mentally wrong with her or something. Maybe she's been, see what I mean? She just slowly swims around sideways. So something's not quite right there, but it's not going to affect anybody. And hopefully we'll have a nice spawn from them all first thing in the morning. So I'll come back first thing and we'll go on from there, alright guys? Hopefully we'll catch the spawn. Right, okay guys, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I've just got up, made myself a good old coffee there. Can't be starting the morning without one of those. Now I've just put the light on, just taken off, I had a towel over the tank just to cover it up and exclude as much light as I could from last night. And I've just put the light on. Now they're just waking up. As you can see, there's 1 or 2 still on the bottom there, but the other ones are starting to wake up now. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of spawning action for you guys to see and witness. They're starting to come up into the water column. There's that little girl of mine, she's always swimming sideways. I'm not sure she's going to breed, but you can never tell. Give them all a chance to have a go. So we've got a mixture of 3 females and 3 males. You can see the females nice and round in their little bellies, and the males, the one up in the water column now, right in the centre of the picture now. Now that's a little male. You can see his little thin abdomen, little streamlined body, and the other ones, you can see the girls with the little plump bellies and their little more torpedo shape. That goes for all the Tetras species really. It's a good indication of male and female, and normally when they're in breeding condition you can really tell them apart that way. And I find with neons as well, look, males will have a straight line going straight down the middle, down that central line, and the females will have a slightly curved, because they get bigger with the babies, with the eggs inside when they're gravid. That little blue line across the neons will actually curve down. If you have a look when you're looking in your tanks, if you've got some neons, But it'll be interesting now to see. They may not spawn this morning, maybe it could be tomorrow, but I have been feeding them up heavily on live food for the last couple of weeks. So it's a waiting game now. So I'm going to pause the video, and when I start to see a bit of spawning action, if I do, I'll press play again and let you guys see it, okay? Alright guys, we've got a little bit of spawning action going on there underneath the sponge filter. There's a bit of plant just on the edge of it there, and it keeps going under there if you can see. It's a little bit hard to see. I've already seen one egg release under there. They've stirred it up a little bit. That's one thing with the compost substrate. They will stir it up a bit, but it's not to worry, it'll soon settle again. So they're busy chasing each other around like our little tetras do when they start spawning, kicking up some of that dust. All busy chasing each other around. But that's where they seem to want to go, underneath the sponge filter there. And like I say, it will vary. Sometimes you can set up the best things in the world for them to spawn over, and they'll spawn on the heaters or around the heaters. You can never tell, but as long as they spawn, that's all you need. So we can get some fry that way. Getting fairly active in there now. You may see a mid-water spawn. It'd be nice because they normally come up into the water column and then and do that little twist together, releasing the eggs and the sperm together, and the eggs will fall down in amongst the plants. Like I say, if you've got Java fern, use that. That's a very good spawning medium. You can use mops, like I said earlier, or you can use what I've got here. I just thought I'd use something different. The old subwasser tang, which I've got out of the shrimp tank, and I've got it in the bench tank as well. It grows like you wouldn't believe in there, but it's a very, very good spawning media as well. Darting around all over the place now, and sometimes you won't see it. It'll happen so quick. They'll dart in amongst the plants, release their eggs, and you won't even see them because they'll do it so close to the plant sometimes, and they'll stir it up, and you won't see them. But hopefully we will see some eggs being released if we're lucky. Yeah, they tend to be going behind the sponge filter now and going up and inside it. I daren't move the camera now or do any messing around because I'll put them off their duties. But I love watching them chase each other around the tank. And you'll see some of the females are on the bottom having a bit of a rest. It's pretty active work. But those little males, once they get geared up for breeding, they're relentless and they won't stop. They chase each other, they start fighting each other, trying to dominate each other. There you go. They're going to chase that female now. And that's what they do. They basically chase them around the tank, and they near enough get exhausted, and that's when they pair up and they breed and they spawn. I thought I saw a little release of eggs there underneath that sponge filter there then. They're really going for it now. And you'll find, guys, when you switch the lights on first thing in the morning, they'll stay dormant for they'll just slowly wake up, just like we do. And it'll probably be maybe an hour with the lights being on, sometimes sooner. And then you'll get the old spawning activity start off. I've put some bloodworm in there earlier. That female on the right hand side down the bottom, she just found one. And that's the great thing about a compost substrate, is that you can put the bloodworms in, and if it's only a shallow base, they'll wriggle around in there and they'll notice that movement under the underneath. Now you might see a spawn now, guys, because I've just seen the light on the heater come on, and normally when you get that heat coming off and it starts to warm that water, that rising warmth in that water column above the heater there, that's like you've seen on some of the other videos. I'm not sure if the glow lights did it when we bred them, but that's sometimes they'll go above the heater and they'll spawn above the heater in that warmer water as it's rising up from the heater. There's some debris in the water now. It'll be hard for you to see the eggs for the debris at the moment, but if I see any, I shall point them out. Yes, exciting stuff, isn't it, eh? Get up in the morning, grab your coffee and go and watch your fish spawn in your tank. Done it ever since I was a kid and it never gets old. Absolutely love watching this. Nature doing its thing. Like I've said in so many of the of my other videos, once you replicate nature, give them what they need, the right conditions, they'll just do what Mother Nature put them on the earth to do. There was a little spawn there right behind that heater there then. A few eggs fell down. So hopefully we'll have some fry from these guys. But it'd be nice for you guys to see some eggs fall. But with these small tetras, they're so quick, they really are. I can't believe they're not chasing that female around on the bottom there. I think we've got, if you notice, there's one missing. Now the one that was swimming a little bit sideways, she wasn't too happy in there earlier, so I very carefully went in, switched the lights off again. Oh, there was a spawn right on the side of that spawning mop there then. Sorry, on the sponge filter. A little flick there if you saw that, right where she's just gone in now. Yeah, I took her out. She wasn't very happy in there, so I'm not sure what's up with her. But she was really putting the others off of what they're doing now, off the spawning. So I very carefully took her out, put her back into the bench tank, where she's happy swimming around again now. So we've got 3 males and 2 females in there now. And I think all the boys are just chasing one girl at the moment. The other one's just happily feeding away on the bloodworms that she keeps finding. That could have been a little spawn there, right at the back of that heater. At the moment, it's just all the boys puffing their little chests out at the moment, sparring with each other, and trying to fend the other 2 off while one goes and has a go at spawning with the female. If you notice, it's mostly the boys chasing the boys around at the moment. One of the females now is right in the top of that subwater tank, right in the middle there she comes. There they go, have a little dive in amongst it. That's where you won't see the eggs fall, but they'll go straight in there, quick couple together, and they'll be out again. There you go, those are little, oh, they see the eggs fall in there? Lots of eggs fall in there, guys. Right in the middle, look, absolutely perfect, there you go. We've got a nice little spawn there. So that's good news. We've seen the eggs drop in amongst the plants there now. They're going to get hidden away. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slowly leave these guys to do what they got to do. You've seen a spawn now, so I'm happy. And obviously as soon as they've finished spawning now, this can go on now for quite a while. You see her now, she's diving in amongst the moss. This is what they do. They'll absolutely chase each other to exhaustion, and then suddenly that female will become receptive and they'll dive in amongst it and start to spawn. Now, you might see another spawn in a minute. They're starting to work her way into the moss again. Oh, there you go, look at that lot coming down. But they're gobbling them up as fast as they're coming out. Actually, they're not actually. A lot of those got into the base, so that's quite good. That female on the bottom there, she's not really. She's quite happily looking for bloodworms. There's one right below her there. You can just see it moving under the peat, under the compost, sorry. But she's not taking part, but that's okay because we've got one little girl and she's laying lots of eggs. And like I said, guys, this is rainwater, pH of 6.5. Make sure you get it from a clean source. What I tend to do as well is if you've got a 5-gallon bucket or anything, just leave it outside and let it fill up slowly with rainwater, and then it's not coming off a roof, so you're not going to be worried about contamination. Make sure it's a nice clean food grade bucket, and just wait for the rains to come and let it fill it up slowly. Because you're only using a small tank. This is basically a 2.5 gallon tank. It's tiny. As you can see by the size of the heater in there, that's a 100 watt heater. And they'll do it in a little tiny tank like this. You don't need anything bigger. I think it's only a foot long, side to side, 8 inches deep, and about 8 inches high. They're really stirring it up now. But this is what they would be doing in the wild. So, like I said, we just replicated what they do in nature. So maybe the other female's going to join in now. I'm going to have lots more babies. Sometimes, if you put the mosquito larvae in as well, that can kick them off. I found with black tetras especially over the years, there's they really do love that fresh mosquito, that live mosquito larvae flicking around in the water. It just, oh, there you go, there's a big cloud of eggs going up there. You watch them just coming down by the sponge filter and falling down into the plants. And they're really behaving themselves actually. They're so into the breeding that they're not actually eating the eggs, which is fantastic. And that peat will settle down after a while, and then we can just leave it. Yes, mosquito larvae, guys, getting back to that, I get way out, I just watch it and I just get mesmerised by them breeding. And I forget you're with me sometimes. Yes, the mosquito larvae really do kick them into gear sometimes as a last resort if you're finding you're having trouble. Temperature in there is 27 degrees this morning. I'll just check with the old laser pointer if I don't disturb them too much. 27 point, oh, it's 28, my goodness, that's going up. 28.4. Now that's probably because I've had the towel over it. to exclude as much light as I could last night, and that has insulated the tank. That's why it could be holding a little bit of heat. But they're happy in 28.7. They're breeding away, so they're enjoying the temperature. Busy, busy, look at that. Yeah, I'm glad some of you guys are giving this a go. I know some of you guys have had trouble, but don't get despondent with it, stick with it. Just replicate what I've done here. Really feed the fish up first. Give it a week, maybe 2 weeks in your community tank first. Okay? Or if you want to keep them in a tank just like this, what you can do is just have the peat substrate in there, okay? And feed them up without any spawning media in there, without any spawning mops in there. I've done that before. And you can feed them up with bloodworm. They'll happily pick them out of the compost, and they'll fatten up, and then you can add the spawning mop later on. There's various ways of doing it. I find if you can't do it this way, sometimes you put the spawning mops in, they'll go on spawning mops. You put Java moss in, and they won't breed on the Java moss. It's just sometimes things vary, so it's really trial and error. I say I've been doing this breeding fish for years and years, and you sort of get a sense for it when you look at the fish and you see what condition they're in, and you see how they're acting in your main community tank first before you take them out. But that live feed is the key to bringing them into condition, it really is. Without that, you're just feeding them flake foods and different things like that. They're not going to spawn nowhere near as well as if they would do. Like I say, replicate nature, and you'll get to your goal a lot sooner. You'll find that's what they'll do sometimes. I've seen them spawn right in amongst the mosses and the subwassertangs and things over the years. I'd say I've seen them spawning on top of the sponge filter, literally jumping on top of the sponge filter with a centimetre of water above it. I've done that before, and I've seen them spawn right on top and lay the eggs on the top of the sponge filter in the corner with about a centimetre of water above them. Right guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to time out now. I hope you enjoyed this first little part of breeding black neons. Part 1. We've got some eggs. Hopefully we're all going to have a good hatch. Now, one thing I will say before I sign off, guys, once you've taken, as soon as they've spawned, take the adults out, okay? Carefully net them out. Try not to stir it up too much. An easier way to catch them is with a torch. If it's early in the morning like this, I tend to turn off the main light in the tank so it's pitch black again. I'll put a torch in there which sort of dazzles them, and you can put the net in behind them and you can get them out very, very carefully without upsetting all the substrate. You just want their eggs to sit now where they fell. And then as soon as you take the adults out, put that towel back over and exclude as much light as you can, okay, because the eggs are light sensitive, they don't like light. So cover your tank up again, put a towel over it, tea towel over the front, just take out as much light. It doesn't have to be pitch black, but just make sure you exclude some of the light, and then leave it like that for 24-48 hours, and then let your fry become free swimming. Keep an eye on them, keep poking your head under the towel having a look, and you'll soon see them little fry start wriggling around and free swimming. But we're going to get back to these little chaps when they are free swimming, and then we'll go through bringing up the fry. Alright guys, as always, York Stars, thank you very much for joining in for part 1. As always, love you all, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Mark's Graphics. Bye for now. It's coffee time.
Just me and my guitar.